What up, watch peeps? I've been wearing a ton of quartz watches lately, but I must confess I didn't even know today's watch was a quartz until I got it in to look at it. I mean, I've seen them on Instagram and stuff, but somehow the quartz aspect got lost in the shuffle. And I do have to admit, it does add to this one's appeal. Plus, you know, Lume. So let's check it out. I'm Pete, and we are chilling with watches. Wrist check. I am wearing the Saphiro. Oh man, I'm showing you guys my tattoo. You know, this is a work in progress. I've only had like 1 of 4 sessions done, so don't even look at that. The Saphiro is like a $30-some quartz watch from AliEx. I'm having a blast wearing it. I think it's kind of cool. It's Santos-ish, 22 to 18 taper on the single bar bracelet that actually fits pretty good. Fun watch, but let's check out this Farr and Swit today. Define your time. There was an outer sleeve on this. I always leave those off. But check this guy out. This has one of those dials that's just gonna scream at you when you first look at this watch. You can see it's obviously got this kind of topographical map lines on it. Obviously an adventure related theme going on here with this watch. Now this is a full lume dial with this orange ring and hands. There are other colors, but there's basically only blue and full lume. There's 2 blues and 2 full lumes, and the other full lume doesn't have the orange. It's gray, so it's a little more subtle, but otherwise I think it's pretty much about the same as this. And what these are 42 millimeter quartz. I guess I think of them as diver style watches. They're mecha quartz, so if you notice, you still get that, you know, semi-smooth sweep of the seconds hand. Not quite as smooth as a mechanical, but still pretty cool for a quartz watch. Retail price on these is $3.99. I think it goes up to $4.15 for certain models. Taking a closer look at the dial, we have a very interesting dial design with topography lines on it, which you might think would be overwhelming, but they've done it in a really understated way here with the gray and that creamy off-white color. So much so, the fact that the orange highlights end up drawing the eye even more than the topography lines. Now, I'm not sure this map dial is quite my style, but if you're an avid hiker, I could see where this might appeal. It's definitely a tough enough watch for those kind of activities. Their logo is a map rosette, so adventure is clearly the theme. The fonts are clean and simple. The dial text is at a minimum. There's no date on this dial, so again, contributing to that kind of clean look. Their use of the even numbers on the dial, for me, is a callback to the Seiko Alpinist. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know, but it totally fits. There are also applied stick markers that are incorporated into the minute track. The orange hand is also loomed like the dial, or, well, like everything else, as we'll soon see. So that orange lume is used not only on the minute track, but also in the hands, which are blue swords. The blue and cream colors, I do find that kind of soothing to me. The orange does break that up a bit, but in a watch built for adventure, a little caution orange just works. We have a flat sapphire crystal with AR. You can see here this bezel grip. It kind of reminds me of the Citizen ProMaster Diver. It's a steel insert. You can see the brushing on it. It's like a blue steel, and it is loomed all the way around. It has a very, I'd call this a ticky feel and sound. Medium to tight resistance. It's 120 click. This one has pretty much no bounce back or anything though. Every move is very tight and discreet. Now the case on this one is a chonker, but it's not supposed to be a slide under the cuff diver, but it's not as thick as you would think either. I measured it at 12.8 millimeters. Now the bezel, as you can see, it sits just inside the case, which makes it not the easiest to grip, but it's not impossible either. There's a lot of caseback hanging out the back, which is surprising for a quartz. I would think you'd have a little more leeway with the movement's thinness. But as a result, the case sides need to have a rather extreme turn down in them to get them below the case back without reaching like 55 millimeters in lug to lug. It's already rather long at 50.6. Now I love the big chunky crown guards. They settle perfectly centered on the crown, as you can see here, and they're still thin enough that the 6.3 millimeter crown is still absolutely easy to use. Now it's not a signed crown, but I think you can see here that is likely because it's not flat. It kind of has this rounded top. Let's take a look at the case back, because it has a pretty cool case back. Now I'm finding lately I'm way more in favor of these kind of large graphics and branding than I am in a circular spec sheet. I think this looks really cool. Now I'm really showing my inner neck beard here with the spring bar talk lately, but I really wish these ones were a little further away from the case. You can see there's not a whole lot of room in there. And there is room on the inside of the lugs, but then the thickness strikes again. Because of the sharp turn down on the lugs, the holes would end up being too far down, straps would sit really low, and it would show way too much kind of inside of the lugs and inside of the case here. But again, it all stems from having that booty case back. If I could tell you micro brands one thing, it's don't do booty case backs. Now the strap it comes with is the one I had it on here. This is one of those elastic Natos. This one seems pretty nice. I've had one of these before and the holes got all fray, and so did the end from trying to jam it in between these spring bars because it's not stiff enough that it wants to slide through. But I think they also come with a regular seatbelt style Nato as well. Running down the dimensions, we're looking at a 42.3 millimeter case. Comes in at 50.6 millimeters from lug to lug, and it measures 12.8 millimeters thick. It has 22 millimeter lug width. Going over some of the other specs, we have a flat sapphire crystal with inner AR coating. All the looms, literally blue and green C3, combined with also BGW9 and orange loom, as you'll see in a minute. It is running the Seiko VH31 Mecha Quartz movement, and it has 100 meters of water resistance. Now, on this pajama Nato strap, it came in at 103 grams. And here is how it wears on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. You can see on a Nato with that booty case back, it does sit up a little high, and the watch head is heavy, so you got to kind of crank down pretty tight on these pajama straps to keep it from flopping around. But if you get it on the right size, it does hold it firmly in place. Elastic straps do a great job of taming large watches. Here it is side by side with a 40 millimeter Invicta Pro diver, and they have pretty similar dial openings, so despite being on almost 2.5 millimeters larger, it doesn't quite present that much larger. You do see a little extra size in the bezel. And what's surprising is the thickness. It's about the same as an automatic movement thickness. I would have thought they'd be able to get this down a little bit thinner. Another 42-ish millimeter diver here is the Doxa Sub 300T. Again, the Doxa, the dial's smaller, so it presents as a smaller watch. Most of its size actually made up in that cushion case. But here I think you can start to see how a thinner profile is possible. Lastly, I have another 42 and change diver in the Seiko SKX. And Seiko, the dial may be just a tad bit smaller, and I think because it's darker, it is presenting as a much smaller watch. And Seiko does have the magic ability to make watches wear smaller than you would expect. All right, the thing we've all been waiting for. Let's see all the loom.
Peep the loom.
And check that out. This thing is absolutely blazing. They did not scrimp on the loom in any way. This is a veritable light show. And I'll tell you what, the color combos, the orange and the blue, just looks so cool together. It even feels like it has like some nice depth to it added by that loomed bezel insert. Super cool loom. So there you go, the Farr and Swit Wayfinder. Really cool dial, orange loom, never disappoints. I do kind of think I'd like to see this one in a sleeker profile, but I did see they have a new solar chronograph, which sounds super interesting. I'd love to check that one out. All right, before I let you guys go, sneaker check. We're my midi in the city, and that's it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, please like, subscribe, and Come back next time. Peace.